The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was a graveyard of dreams, they said. But for Marcus Chen, it was his bread and butter. The veteran salvage operator guided his ship, the Lucky Break, through the dense field with the precision of a surgeon. 15 years of experience had taught him that out here, one wrong move meant joining the very wreckage he sought to recover. Another day, another credit, he muttered, scanning the readouts on his holographic display. The ship's AI had flagged something interesting. Energy readings unlike anything he'd seen before, emanating from what appeared to be an ancient derelict vessel wedged between two massive asteroids. Marcus adjusted his course, bringing the Lucky Break alongside the mysterious craft. Its design was unlike anything he'd encountered in his years of salvage work, smooth, organic curves that seemed to flow like liquid metal, now dulled by centuries of cosmic radiation and micrometeorite impacts. "Begin preliminary scan," he commanded, and his ship's sensors swept across the derelict's hull. The results made him sit up straighter in his pilot's chair. The vessel's hull was composed of materials that didn't match any known elements in his database. "Well," he whispered, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth, "looks like today might be interesting after all." Following standard salvage protocols, Marcus suited up in his EVA gear. The suit was well worn but meticulously maintained. Out here, your suit was your life. He double-checked his oxygen levels and tool belt before entering the airlock. The space between ships was silent and dark, broken only by the beam of his helmet lights. As he approached the alien vessel, its surface seemed to ripple slightly, as if responding to his presence. Marcus had seen plenty of strange things in his time as a salvage operator, but this sent a shiver down his spine. Using his plasma cutter, he carefully created an entrance through what appeared to be an emergency hatch. The metal parted with surprising ease, as if yielding willingly to his touch. Inside, the ship was a maze of corridors that seemed to pulse with a faint bioluminescent glow. "This is definitely not standard human tech," he reported into his suit's recorder. "Design suggests an advanced civilization, possibly predating human spaceflight by centuries." As he moved deeper into the vessel, his suit's sensors detected a faint energy signature coming from what he assumed was the ship's central chamber. The door to this room was sealed, but as Marcus approached, it simply melted away, revealing a sight that took his breath away. Floating in the center of the chamber was a crystalline crown, suspended in a field of shifting energy. It rotated slowly, casting rainbow-like refractions across the walls. But what truly caught Marcus's attention was how the crown seemed to pulse in sync with his heartbeat. "My God," he whispered, reaching out towards it. The moment his gloved hand touched the crown, the energy field collapsed, and the artifact fell gently into his grasp. A warm sensation spread through his body, and for a brief moment, he could have sworn he heard voices. Thousands of them, speaking in a language he'd never heard before, but somehow understood. The ship's emergency lights suddenly flared to life, and a holographic message appeared before him. The symbols were alien, yet he could read them as clearly as English. "The Peacekeeper returns." Before Marcus could process what was happening, his suit's proximity alarm blared. 3 massive ships had just dropped out of faster-than-light travel nearby, their designs matching the derelict vessel's organic architecture. His comm system crackled to life with a transmission in that same strange language he'd heard in his mind. And once again, he understood it perfectly. "Greetings, Peacekeeper. The Aurelian Concordat welcomes your return." Marcus looked down at the crown in his hands, then back at the massive ships now surrounding his position. In 15 years of salvage operations, he'd never found himself in a situation quite like this. He was about to learn that some salvage operations could change not just your day, but the course of human history. A voice in his mind, ancient and powerful, whispered, "The time has come." And somehow, Marcus Chen, salvage operator from Earth, knew his life would never be the same again. Marcus stood in what could only be described as a cathedral of light. The Aurelian flagship's central chamber soared hundreds of feet overhead, its walls swimming with patterns of bioluminescence that seemed to respond to his presence. Before him stood Admiral Corell, a being whose appearance challenged everything Marcus thought he knew about alien life. The Aurelians were humanoid, but their skin had an opalescent quality that shifted colors with their emotions. Corell's currently displayed a deep blue of reverence, mixed with hints of green uncertainty. Their eyes, multifaceted like diamonds, reflected light in ways that made them appear to contain entire galaxies. "You carry within you the genetic markers of our greatest peacekeeper," Corell explained, their voice a melodious blend of tones that seemed to resonate directly in Marcus's mind. "Though your appearance is human, your genetic structure contains sequences we thought lost to time." Marcus gripped the crystalline crown tighter, its warm pulse matching his heartbeat. "With all due respect, Admiral, I'm just a salvage operator from Earth. My parents were colonists on Mars. There must be some mistake." A smile flickered across Corell's features. "The crown you hold is more than mere jewelry, Peacekeeper. It is a key, a genetic lock that responds only to those who carry the ancient bloodline. For 10,000 years, it has remained dormant, waiting for one who could awaken its power." As if responding to Corell's words, the crown pulsed brighter. Images flooded Marcus's mind. Vast cities that blended technology and nature in impossible ways, great fleets of ships that sailed between the stars, and a civilization that had achieved heights humanity had only dreamed of. But with these visions came darker ones, a great schism, a faction that believed in dominance rather than peace, and a devastating war that had scattered the Aurelian people across the galaxy. The crown was showing him their history, their pain, and their hope. "The quantum divide," Corell said softly, noting Marcus's expression. "Our civilization's greatest tragedy. The rebels, led by Archon Vex, sought to use our technology to dominate other species. The peacekeepers stood against them, but the cost. They trailed off, their skin shifting to a deep purple of mourning." A sudden alarm blared through the chamber. The bioluminescent patterns on the walls flared red, and Corell's skin rippled with patterns of alarm. Multiple ships dropping out of quantum space. Vex Legion signatures detected. Marcus's salvage operator instincts kicked in. Years of working in the dangerous asteroid belt had taught him to think fast in crisis situations. "Your people have been waiting thousands of years for a peacekeeper to return," he said, straightening his back. "Well, you've got one now. And this peacekeeper happens to have 15 years of experience dealing with crisis situations in space." Corell's skin shifted to a bright gold of surprise and hope. "You would stand with us." "I don't fully understand what's happening here," Marcus admitted, "but I know right from wrong. And I know that sometimes the most valuable salvage operations are the ones where you save something that matters." He lifted the crown, which now blazed with internal light. "Show me what I need to do." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Marcus discovered that his human perspective, combined with the genetic memory awakening within him, provided unique insights. While the Aurelians thought in terms of their advanced quantum technology, his experience with practical problem-solving offered new approaches. When Vex's forces attempted to trap the Aurelian flagship in a quantum stasis field, Marcus suggested using the asteroid belt's natural gravitational distortions to disrupt their calculations. It worked perfectly, proving that sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. But their victory was short-lived. As they regrouped, Corell revealed the true extent of their crisis. "Vex doesn't just want to defeat us," they explained, their skin now a troubled mix of colors. "He's discovered something in the ancient archives, a weapon of unimaginable power. And now that a true peacekeeper has returned, he will stop at nothing to prevent you from fully awakening your heritage." Marcus looked out at the star-filled void through the ship's living viewport. Somewhere out there, his salvage ship Lucky Break floated among the asteroids, a reminder of the simple life he'd led just hours ago. But as the crown hummed with power in his hands, he knew there was no going back. "Then we'd better make sure I wake up quickly," he said firmly. Because I have a feeling humanity just got pulled into a war that's been brewing for 10,000 years, and I'm not about to let either of our species face it alone. Corell's skin shifted to a brilliant silver of determination. The awakening process is dangerous, especially for one of mixed heritage. It could kill you. Marcus smiled grimly. In salvage operations, the biggest rewards always come with the biggest risks. Let's do this. As the Aurelian flagship accelerated toward their hidden sanctuary, Marcus Chen prepared to undergo a transformation that would either unlock the full potential of his mysterious heritage or end his journey before it truly began. Either way, he was about to prove that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or its genetics, but its unwavering determination to face the unknown head-on. The awakening process had changed Marcus in ways he was still discovering. His eyes now held the same galaxy-like depths as the Aurelians, and his skin occasionally flickered with bioluminescent patterns when his emotions ran high. But his mind remained distinctly human, combining Earth-born intuition with newly awakened genetic memories. The Aurelian sanctuary moon hung in space before them, its surface dotted with cities that seemed to grow from the very rock itself. In the command center of the flagship, Marcus stood before a delegation of both Aurelian High Council members and human representatives from Earth's Space Defense Force. The Vex Legion isn't just a threat to the Aurelians anymore, Marcus explained, his skin flickering with urgent patterns that the Aurelians could read, but he was still learning to control. Their quantum weapon could unravel the very fabric of space-time. Earth, the colonies, everything we've built could be erased from existence. Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force, no relation to Marcus, though she'd made several jokes about it, leaned forward in her seat. You're asking us to commit Earth's forces to an alien war that's been going on for millennia. That's a hard sell, even with your unique perspective on the situation. Marcus nodded, understanding her hesitation. 2 weeks ago, he'd been just another salvage operator. Now he was trying to forge an alliance between two civilizations. I'm not asking you to fight someone else's war, Admiral. I'm asking you to help prevent our extinction. Humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to adapt, to find solutions where others see only problems. He gestured to the holographic display showing Vex's forces massing at the edge of known space. The Aurelians have technology we can barely comprehend, but they're bound by traditions and ways of thinking that go back thousands of years. We humans, we look at problems differently. We improvise. We find unexpected solutions. Krull stepped forward, their skin shimmering with agreement. Already, Marcus's human perspective has helped us see new possibilities. His suggestion to modify our quantum shields using principles from Earth's early space programs, technology we would have considered primitive, has made our defenses twice as effective against Vex's attacks. And that's just the beginning, Marcus continued. Aurelian quantum technology combined with human innovation could revolutionize both our civilizations. But first, we have to survive. The human delegates whispered among themselves, but Marcus could see they were coming around. His next words would be crucial. I stand before you as living proof that our species are not as different as we might think. In my veins runs the blood of both Earth and the stars. And I'm telling you that either we stand together or we fall separately. Admiral Chen studied him for a long moment before speaking. Even if we agree, how can we hope to match Vex's forces? From what you've shown us, their fleet outnumbers ours significantly. Marcus smiled, and for a moment, the galaxy patterns in his eyes seemed to swirl with increased intensity. Because we're going to change the rules of engagement. Admiral Corell, show them Project Phoenix. The holographic display shifted, showing schematics that merged Aurelian quantum technology with human design principles. The human delegates leaned forward, their eyes widening as they realized what they were seeing. This is impossible, one of them whispered. Impossible is what humans do best, Marcus replied. The Aurelians have been fighting this war according to strategies that are thousands of years old. But humanity, We wrote the book on asymmetric warfare. We're going to take Vex's assumptions about how this war should be fought and turn them against him." As the schematics rotated in the air between them, Marcus could see the moment when understanding dawned in their eyes. The same look of amazed disbelief he'd worn when he'd first proposed this crazy idea to Corell. "It's insane," Admiral Chen said finally. "It breaks about a dozen laws of physics." She paused, then smiled. "It's exactly what we need. You have Earth's support, Mr. Chen. God help us all." The next few days were a whirlwind of activity as the alliance took shape. Human engineers worked alongside Aurelian quantum specialists, each learning from the other. Marcus moved between them, bridging gaps in understanding, translating not just words but entire ways of thinking. But even as hope grew, so did the shadow of war. Vex's forces were on the move, and reports of attacks on outlying colonies, both human and Aurelian, grew more frequent. Time was running out. In his private quarters, Marcus stood before a mirror, studying his changed reflection. The crown sat on a pedestal nearby, its crystal structure pulsing in sync with his heartbeat. He touched his face, watching the faint patterns of light move beneath his skin. "You're adapting remarkably well," Corell said from the doorway. "Most would be overwhelmed by such changes." Marcus turned to face them. Maybe that's humanity's real superpower, not just surviving change, but embracing it, making it our own. He picked up the crown, feeling its familiar warmth. "How much time do we have?" Corell's skin darkened with concern. "Our long-range sensors detect Vex's fleet moving into position. 3 days, perhaps 4. Marcus nodded, his expression determined. "Then it's time to show him what happens when humanity and Aurelians work together. Time to remind him why the peacekeepers were feared even by those who claimed to fear nothing." As they walked together toward the command center, neither spoke of the cost their victory might demand. Sometimes, Marcus had learned, the most valuable things you salvaged came with the highest price. But if his human determination combined with his Aurelian heritage could save 2 civilizations, then no price was too high to pay. The combined fleet of human and Aurelian ships hung in the void like a constellation of hope. Through the flagship's living viewport, Marcus watched as Earth vessels, their hulls now augmented with quantum technology, moved in perfect formation with Aurelian ships. It was a sight that would have been impossible just weeks ago. But Vex had one final card to play. Multiple quantum ruptures detected. The sensor operator's voice cut through the command center's tense atmosphere. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Marcus felt it before he saw it. A deep, resonant wrongness that made his hybrid DNA scream in warning. The crown on his head pulsed erratically, its crystal structure vibrating with alarm. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to tear apart. Vex's flagship emerged from the quantum rift, but it was transformed. Dark energy coursed across its hull like liquid shadow, and in its wake, reality itself seemed to unravel. "By the ancient stars," Corell whispered, their skin pale with horror. "He's done it. He's weaponized the quantum void itself." The enemy fleet opened fire, but these weren't normal weapons. Wherever their beams struck, matter didn't just disintegrate. It ceased to exist, taking with it the very fabric of space-time. Several Earth ships vanished instantly, leaving behind holes in reality that made Marcus's enhanced senses real. "All ships, execute Emergency Protocol Phoenix," Marcus commanded, his voice carrying through both conventional channels and a quantum link he shared with the Aurelian vessels. "Remember your training." The combined fleet moved as one, implementing the strategies they developed. Human ingenuity merged with Aurelian technology as ships performed maneuvers that should have been impossible, using the quantum distortions themselves as shields and weapons. But it wasn't enough. Vex's weapon was too powerful, too absolute in its destruction. With each passing moment, more ships were erased from existence, and the holes in space-time began to spread and merge. In the command center, Marcus studied the tactical display with growing dread. The crown was showing him calculations, probabilities, outcomes, and none of them ended well. "The weapon's effect is cascading," he announced grimly. "Once it reaches critical mass, it'll create a chain reaction. Not just this solar system, but potentially the entire galaxy could be undone." Admiral Chen's voice crackled over the comm. "There has to be a way to stop it. Everything has a weakness." Marcus stared at the display, his hybrid mind racing. The genetic memories of his Aurelian heritage combined with his human intuition, showing him possibilities that neither race would have seen alone. "There is a way," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "The crown, it's not just a symbol of authority. It's a key to the quantum realm itself. If I can get close enough to Vex's flagship, I might be able to create a quantum singularity, a controlled collapse that would contain the weapon's effects." Krill's skin flickered with alarm. "The energy required, it would mean your death. And even then, there's no guarantee it would work." Marcus smiled sadly. "In salvage operations, sometimes you have to know what to sacrifice to save what's truly valuable." He turned to face his friend, seeing the colors of grief already spreading across their skin. "Humanity and the Aurelians working together, that's worth any price." Before anyone could stop him, Marcus was moving. He made his way to his old salvage ship, the Lucky Break, now modified with Aurelian technology. It wasn't much, but it was small enough to slip through the chaos of battle, and more importantly, it felt right that his final journey should be in the ship that had started it all. As he prepared for launch, Admiral Chen's voice came through the comm. "Marcus, Earth won't forget this. Just make sure this alliance survives," he replied. "Make sure all of this meant something." The Lucky Break shot out from the flagship's launch bay, diving into the heart of the battle. Marcus pushed the ship's hybrid systems to their limits, dodging quantum beams and reality distortions with a combination of human reflexes and Aurelian insight. The crown blazed on his head, its power building to levels that made his enhanced body scream in protest. But he pushed through the pain, focused on his goal. The genetic memories of countless peacekeepers flowed through him, showing him how to channel the crown's power in ways that hadn't been attempted in millennia. As he approached Vex's flagship, its dark energy weapons focused on him. The Lucky Break shuddered under impacts that should have erased it from existence, but the crown's power formed a protective bubble of stable space-time around the ship. "So," Vex's voice crackled through the comm, dripping with malice, "the last peacekeeper comes to die." "No," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the pain coursing through him. "I came to remind you of what the peacekeepers truly stood for. We don't just keep the peace, we make the ultimate sacrifice to preserve it." With those words, Marcus Chen, salvage operator turned peacekeeper, unleashed the crown's full power. Light exploded from his ship, so bright it was visible from Earth. The quantum energies he'd unleashed met Vex's dark weapon in a clash of forces that hadn't been seen since the universe was young. And in that moment, as reality itself hung in the balance, humanity's determination and Aurelian wisdom combined in one final desperate gambit to save everything they held dear. In the aftermath of the quantum cascade, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Where Vex's flagship had been, there was now a perfect sphere of crystallized spacetime, its surface reflecting the light of distant stars like a massive diamond suspended in the void. Inside the Aurelian flagship's command center, silence reigned. The tactical displays showed the impossible. The weapon's effects had been contained, the spreading tears in reality sealed by the power Marcus had unleashed. But the cost? "No trace of the Lucky Break," reported the sensor operator, their skin a deep purple of mourning. "The quantum readings are, there's nothing like this in our records." Admiral Chen's voice was thick with emotion when she broke the silence. "He did it. That crazy salvage operator actually did it." Krill's skin rippled with complex patterns of grief and pride. Not just a salvage operator. A true peacekeeper, one who understood that power exists not for dominion, but for protection. As the combined fleet regrouped, something unexpected began to happen. The crystalline sphere at the battle's epicenter started to pulse with a familiar rhythm, the same rhythm that had once emanated from Marcus's crown. Energy patterns are shifting, the science officer reported, their skin flickering with excitement. It's becoming a quantum nexus point. Krell moved closer to the viewport, their multifaceted eyes widening. Not just a containment field then. He's given us something more, something that could change everything. The sphere had become a bridge between quantum states, a permanent junction point where the boundaries between normal space and the quantum realm were thin enough to be traversed safely. In his final moments, Marcus had not only contained the weapon's destruction, but had transformed it into something that could benefit both civilizations. Within days, research teams from both Earth and the Aurelian worlds were studying the phenomenon. The quantum nexus, as it came to be called, offered possibilities that neither species had dreamed possible. Faster than light travel became more efficient, communication across vast distances instantaneous, and the merging of human and Aurelian technologies accelerated exponentially. 1 month after the battle, representatives from both civilizations gathered on Earth for a historic ceremony. In the Great Hall of the newly established Interstellar Council, Admiral Chen stood before the assembled delegates. "We gather here not to mourn a loss, but to celebrate a beginning," she announced. Marcus Chen was not just a bridge between our species. He showed us what we could become together. In his final act, he gave us not just survival, but a future brighter than either of our civilizations could have achieved alone. Krell stepped forward, their skin shimmering with ceremonial patterns. "The age of division is over. In honor of our lost peacekeeper, we propose a new title for this council, the Chen Accord." The motion passed unanimously. As the delegates filed out, Krell lingered in the hall with Admiral Chen, both gazing up at a holographic display of the quantum nexus, now permanently positioned at the former battlefield. "You know," Chen said thoughtfully, "in all our years of space exploration, we humans always wondered if we'd find our place among the stars. Turns out, we just needed to be reminded that we belonged there all along." Krell's skin rippled with agreement. Marcus understood something that both our peoples had forgotten. True strength lies not in technology or tradition, but in the willingness to adapt, to change, to sacrifice for something greater than ourselves. In the years that followed, the Chen Accord transformed both civilizations. Human innovation combined with Aurelian wisdom led to achievements that would have seemed impossible before. The quantum nexus became a symbol of unity, a reminder that the greatest salvage operation in history hadn't been about recovering ancient artifacts, but about reclaiming hope for the future. And somewhere, in the quantum realm that he had given his life to protect, many believed that Marcus Chen's consciousness lived on, watching over the alliance he had helped forge. The last peacekeeper had become something more, a legend that would inspire generations of both humans and Aurelians to reach for the stars, not with conquest in mind, but with hope in their hearts. In the end, it wasn't advanced technology or ancient bloodlines that had saved two civilizations. It was the simple determination of a salvage operator who refused to give up, who saw value in what others had discarded, and who proved that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to build bridges, even across the vast gulfs between stars and species. The crystalline crown, recovered from the battlefield's edge, now sits in a place of honor in the council chamber. It no longer pulses with power, but serves as a reminder of the truth Marcus Chen had discovered, that the greatest power lies not in dominion over others, but in the choice to sacrifice for their preservation. And in the quantum nexus, where space and time dance on the edge of understanding, some say they can still hear echoes of his final words. "The most valuable things you salvage are the ones that give others hope." The stars shine on, bearing witness to the legacy of a human who became more than human, who proved that in the vastness of space, the strongest force in the universe isn't quantum energy or ancient magic. It's the power of two civilizations choosing to face the future together.